This coin almost ended up in a vending machine. A single dime, just 10 cents, but when a collector spotted it, he realized it wasn't ordinary pocket change. It was a mistake, a miracle, and $1 million discovery. For years, people thought modern dimes couldn't possibly be worth a fortune. After all, billions were struck. They're tiny, they're common, and they're forgotten in couch cushions across America. But then came one coin, a 2017 Denver minted dime, with a secret so shocking that the coin world still hasn't stopped talking about it. At first glance, it looked normal. Roosevelt's portrait. The torch, the oak branch, the olive branch, but under the right light, one detail revealed everything, the kind of mistake the US Mint almost never lets escape, and because of that, this dime has been valued at up to $1 million. Collectors were stunned. Dealers were rushing. It wasn't gold. It wasn't silver. It wasn't ancient. It was a simple 2017 dime, the kind you might have right now in your pocket. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When the story broke, hundreds of people began searching through their change jars at gas stations, laundromats, even grocery store cashiers were suddenly looking twice at every dime that crossed their hands, because now everyone knew the right dime, from the right year, could change their life forever. The answer lies in the tiny Denver mint mark, the small D pressed just above the date. On most coins, it looks perfect, sharp, aligned, but on this one, it wasn't. It was misplaced, struck wrong, slightly doubled, and paired with a rare die error that no one expected in modern times. One man described it as lightning in a bottle, the kind of error that almost never leaves the mint. The odds of it surviving circulation were nearly impossible, and yet, here it was. Imagine handing this coin to a cashier for a pack of gum. Imagine losing it in the laundry, never knowing it was worth a fortune. That's exactly what almost happened. Until one sharp-eyed collector noticed, and when it hit the auction block, bids started flying. $20,000, $50,000, $100,000. And then, silence broke into gasps as it climbed into the stratosphere. Final hammer price, close to $1 million. Experts believe there may be more out there, coins that slipped past quality control, hiding quietly in change jars, drawers, and old piggy banks across the country, coins that everyday people mistake for ordinary dimes until someone looks closer. And here's where it gets interesting: not every 2017 D dime is valuable. In fact, most are worth exactly 10 cents, but the key is in the error. Collectors call it a misaligned mint mark combined with a die doubling. Under magnification, the D looks slightly shifted, almost shadowed, and the torch flames on the reverse show doubling lines that aren't supposed to be there. That's the treasure map hidden in plain sight. This is why seasoned collectors check even the newest coins, because sometimes, a coin that's younger than your car can be worth more than your house. But here's the chilling part: for every person who found one, hundreds probably spent theirs without ever realizing how many slipped into parking meters, bus fares, or children's piggy banks, gone forever. And how many are still out there, waiting? The story of this dime has become a legend in coin collecting circles. Some dealers whisper about it at shows, others shake their heads in disbelief, saying it's proof that the mint can still surprise us, even today. And then there are the hopeful ones, ordinary people who wake up every morning, dump out their change, and pray to see that tiny D out of place. But this isn't just about money. It's about the thrill of discovery, the idea that your pocket change could hold history, rarity, and life-changing value. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and it can happen again. 2017. Look for the Denver mint mark, the D just above the date. Then, under magnification, check for doubling. The flames on the torch should appear doubled, with faint lines that shouldn't exist, and most importantly, study that mint mark. If it's misaligned, tilted, or appears shadowed, you might be staring at one of the rarest modern dimes in existence. But be careful, there are plenty of coins with scratches, dents, or machine doubling that look strange but are worth almost nothing. That's the trap. The difference between a $1 coin and $1 million treasure comes down to knowledge, patience, and the trained eye to spot the real deal. Dealers say the best way is to use a jeweler's loupe or a digital microscope. Take your time, look closely, because one tiny detail could change your life forever. And here's the most haunting truth of all: this exact dime could already be in your house. It could be in a jar on your nightstand. It could be sitting inside an old drawer, a forgotten roll of change, or tucked into a child's piggy bank. Every day it hides a little longer, until someone finally uncovers it. Collectors were shocked, the coin world was stunned, and one ordinary dime became $1 million legend. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, look closely, because the next person to uncover a 2017 D mint mark dime with this rare error might not just find a coin, they might find a miracle. This dime was almost spent at a gas station, almost slipped through a cashier's hands, almost vanished into the void of ordinary change. But instead, it became a story worth over $1 million. Yes, you heard that right. A single 2003 Denver minted dime, a coin so common, so ordinary, that most people wouldn't give it a second glance, has shocked collectors by being valued at up to $1.1 million. But how could a piece of pocket change, just 10 cents in face value, climb to a price that rivals luxury cars, houses, and lifelong fortunes? Back in 2003, the Denver Mint produced millions upon millions of Roosevelt dimes. Coins meant to be spent, forgotten, passed from one hand to another. But in that river of metal, in that endless flood of copper-nickel blanks struck with precision machinery, a few slipped through with errors so rare, so mysterious, that they would one day capture the entire coin world's attention. One coin, pulled from obscurity, stunned experts. A misstrike so subtle, so elusive, that it escaped detection for years. But when collectors finally saw it under the right light, they froze. This wasn't just a dime. This was history, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world, because the discovery didn't come from a dealer's showcase or a treasure chest in an attic. No. It came from pocket change. A man in Colorado emptied his change jar one night, expecting nothing more than quarters, dimes, and pennies to roll for the bank. And then, he saw it. The date read 2003. The mint mark, a tiny D. But the rim of the coin was off. The strike was misaligned. The edge revealed layers of error hidden beneath the surface. He didn't know it yet, but he was holding a $1 million dime. Collectors were shocked when news broke. Dealers rushed to verify the authenticity. Auction houses prepared to set records. And when the final gavel fell, jaws dropped. That 10-cent piece had transformed into a life-changing fortune. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it, because the error isn't always obvious. Some examples show doubling in the inscriptions. Some reveal die cracks running like lightning across the face. Others display an eerie off-center strike that makes Roosevelt's profile shift in haunting fashion. These mistakes, these accidents of the minting process, are exactly what turns the ordinary into the extraordinary. Not all 2003 D dimes are valuable. In fact, 99.9% of them are worth exactly 10 cents. But the rare few, the chosen errors, can make you a millionaire overnight, because a handful of 2003 D dimes also struck on experimental planchets, blanks never meant for circulation. Some were struck on copper zinc alloys, some on leftover foreign coin stock. These coins, when authenticated, can bring not just thousands, but hundreds of thousands. And the right combination, error plus experimental blank, is what gave rise to the jaw-dropping $1 million sale. The coin existed. And its existence changed everything. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle. Imagine it. You're at the grocery store, counting out dimes, and one of them, one small silver disc, is worth more than your car, more than your house, more than most people will earn in years. That's the kind of story that makes coin collecting more than a hobby. It makes it a treasure hunt, but the story doesn't stop there. Because once word spread, treasure hunters across America began searching. Coin rolls vanished from banks. Collectors lined up with magnifying glasses, combing through every dime they could get their hands on, and just when the frenzy began to cool, another discovery sent shockwaves. Another 2003 D dime surfaced, this time with a striking off-center error so dramatic it looked like a crescent moon had cut through Roosevelt's face. At auction, it soared into the six-figure range. The legend of the 2003 D was no longer a one-off miracle. It was becoming a series of lightning strikes, but what happened next pushed the frenzy to the edge of disbelief. A small auction house in the Midwest listed another example, quietly, without fanfare. Collectors expected it might fetch a few thousand. But as bidding climbed, the tension in the room grew unbearable. 10,000. 50,000. 100,000. And still, the paddles rose. When the final bid closed, the price tag was near $1 million. For a dime. A single dime from 2003. The room erupted. Reporters called it absurd, miraculous, unbelievable. But collectors knew. They knew these coins were more than metal. They were stories frozen in time, accidents of history that became treasures. First, the mint mark. You're searching for a 2003 dime with the small d for Denver. If you see that, don't stop there. Look closer. Much closer, check the inscriptions. Is there doubling on the words liberty or in God we trust? Check the date. Does the 2003 look crisp, or is it slightly shadowed? That shadow could be doubling, worth thousands. Examine the rim. Does it look even and smooth, or does it bulge on one side, as if pressed off-center? That's another sign. Tilt the coin under the light. Do cracks shimmer across the surface, lines where the die fractured under pressure? Those cracks are the fingerprints of rarity, and if you're lucky enough to find one that feels just slightly different in weight, different in color, different in metal, you may be holding one struck on the wrong planchet. That is the kind of find that can change your life, but be careful. Many dimes from 2003 look normal but are simply worn or damaged. Those are not errors. Don't confuse scratches or dents with minting mistakes. Only certified errors carry the big money, and that's why authentication is key. Professional grading services exist for this exact reason, to separate the ordinary from the extraordinary. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, don't dismiss that little dime. Look at it. Study it. That coin you almost spent on a cup of coffee could be worth over $1 million, because history has already proven it. A coin nearly thrown away became a millionaire's dream. This coin almost ended up in someone's pocket change, but today it's worth over $1 million. Yes, a single 1978 D dime, a coin that countless people have overlooked, has shaken the entire collecting world with shocking auction results that no one ever saw coming. The story of this coin is as mysterious as it is miraculous. Back in 1978, the Denver Mint produced millions of Roosevelt dimes. They were ordinary, forgettable coins, or so it seemed. Day after day, these dimes poured out of the presses and into circulation, quietly slipping into cash registers, purses, and piggy banks. Nothing appeared unusual. Nothing at all, but hidden in that flood of coins was something extraordinary. A tiny mistake. A secret detail. A flaw so rare, so microscopic, that almost no one noticed it until decades later, and that's when the world of coin collecting would never be the same again, because one of these 1978 D dimes, once thought to be worth nothing more than its face value, went on to sell for nearly $1.2 million. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were stunned. And ordinary people began tearing through their change, desperate to see if they, too, might be holding this once-in-a-lifetime treasure. The answer lies in a detail most people would miss with the naked eye. A detail so small that even seasoned coin dealers might overlook it. Yet this single feature is the difference between 10 cents and $1 million miracle, and here's where the story gets even more unbelievable. An ordinary collector who had almost given up searching found one of these dimes in a roll of change he bought at a local bank. Just imagine walking into a bank with $10 and walking out unknowingly with a coin worth over $1 million, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The dime went up for auction. Experts gathered. Collectors buzzed. Everyone knew something extraordinary was about to unfold. The bidding started modestly. Then it rose. And rose. And rose again. Until finally, the hammer fell. The coin had sold for over $1 million. The room erupted. Collectors gasped. Some couldn't believe what they had just witnessed. A 10-cent coin had just changed someone's life forever, and here's the chilling part: there may be more of these dimes out there. Sitting in pockets. In jars. In old coin rolls that no one has bothered to check. In 1978, the Denver Mint was running at full speed. Billions of coins were needed for circulation, and the presses were running around the clock. But during that rush, errors happened. Dies were overpolished. Mint marks were misplaced. Sometimes, planchets, the blank discs that become coins, were struck improperly. These tiny mistakes often went unnoticed. Workers didn't stop the machines for every little flaw. Instead, those coins were released into circulation, forgotten by the mint, but not forgotten by history. One such error involved the mint mark itself. On some 1978 D dimes, the mint mark was struck off-center, filled in, or faintly doubled. To the untrained eye, it looks like nothing. To an expert, it looks like treasure. Another layer of mystery lies in the coin's finish. Certain 1978 D dimes were struck on planchets intended for other coins, an accident so rare, it almost defies belief. This mistake gave those dimes a unique appearance, a slightly different luster, and a weight that stood out under close inspection. The misplaced mint mark, the rare planchet, and the unique strike created a coin that would one day command $1 million price tag. Collectors say this coin represents the perfect storm: rarity, mystery, and history all colliding in a single dime. Most of these coins may still be out there, unfound, unrecognized, hiding in rolls of coins, sitting untouched in old drawers, buried at the bottom of jars where people toss their spare change. Think about that for a moment. That little jar of coins in your kitchen. That old drawer in your desk. That roll of dimes you've kept for years. Any one of those could contain a 1978 D dime worth over $1 million, and history proves it time and again. Collectors have stumbled across life-changing discoveries in the most ordinary places. A garage sale. A dusty attic. A forgotten collection passed down from a relative. What looks like pocket change can suddenly become a golden ticket. Experts believe more examples could surface. Auction houses are prepared. Collectors are watching. And every time someone checks their change, the possibility hangs in the air. Could this be the next $1 million dime? And this is why dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins. They know the truth: history always rewards the sharp-eyed, the curious, the ones willing to look closer when everyone else shrugs it off. Look for a 1978 dime with the D mint mark, struck in Denver. Then, under magnification, examine the mint mark closely. Is it faint? Misplaced? Doubled? Filled in? That tiny detail could mean the difference between 10 cents and a fortune. Next, weigh the coin. If it feels unusual, if it doesn't match the standard weight of a Roosevelt dime, you may be holding a coin struck on the wrong planchet, one of the rarest errors imaginable. Finally, check the overall strike. Some of these dimes carry a sharper, almost proof-like appearance, even though they were never intended for collectors. That striking difference alone can be worth a second look. Don't clean it. Don't polish it. Don't try to make it look new. Collectors value authenticity, and the smallest scratch can wipe away thousands of dollars in value. So the next time you see a 1978 D dime, don't dismiss it as pocket change. Don't toss it into a jar. Don't let it disappear into the background. Because hidden in that dime could be the chance of a lifetime. Collectors call it the $1 million miracle. Dealers call it history in the making. And for one lucky person, it became the ticket to unimaginable wealth. This exact dime could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but sold for nearly $1 million, and the strangest part? Most people don't even know it exists. In 1965, something extraordinary happened inside the US Mint. A decision was made that would change coin history forever. Silver coins, the coins Americans had trusted for decades, were suddenly being replaced with cheaper metals. Silver dimes, quarters, and half dollars were vanishing from circulation. And in their place came a new era of clad coins, copper sandwiched between nickel, designed to save the government money. But in the middle of this great transition, a mistake was made. A mistake so rare, so incredible, that it created one of the most valuable dimes the world has ever seen. Collectors whisper about it. Dealers search obsessively for it. And one lucky finder could hold a coin worth up to $1.3 million, a single dime, small enough to slip through your fingers without a second thought. The year before, in 1964, the mint was producing Roosevelt dimes in 90% silver. These silver coins were disappearing from circulation almost instantly. People hoarded them, knowing silver had value beyond its face. Then, as 1965 began, the mint officially stopped striking silver dimes for circulation. Every coin produced from that year forward was supposed to be clad, no more silver. But here's the shocking twist: somehow, silver planchets, leftover coin blanks from 1964, found their way into the presses in 1965. By accident, the mint struck Roosevelt dimes dated 1965, but in solid silver. To the naked eye, these coins looked ordinary. To the average person, they were just another dime in pocket change. But in reality, they were a forbidden coin, a phantom from the past, a silver ghost that never should have existed. This is why collectors today are hunting tirelessly for the 1965 silver dime. And here's where the story gets even more unbelievable. One of these dimes surfaced at auction. Bidders couldn't believe their eyes. A 1965 dime, struck not in clad, but in 90% silver. The coin sold for an astronomical price, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And as more examples were confirmed, the legend only grew stronger. Some say the finest examples could bring as much as $1.3 million under the right circumstances. That's the mystery that keeps collectors awake at night. And it's simpler than you think. First, the weight. A clad dime from 1965 should weigh about 2.27 grams. But a silver dime, one of these rare minting mistakes, will weigh closer to 2.5 grams. That tiny fraction of a gram makes the difference between pocket change and life-changing money. When dropped gently on a hard surface, silver coins produce a high-pitched, ringing tone, a bell-like sound no clad coin can replicate. Collectors call it the silver ring. If your 1965 dime sings, you may have struck gold, or rather, silver, and third, the edge. Modern clad dimes show a distinct copper stripe along the edge, where the inner core is visible. But a silver dime? It gleams pure silver, edge to edge, with no trace of copper. Collectors were stunned when this information began to circulate. People rushed to their coin jars, their drawers, even the change sitting in their cars, desperate to check. Dealers reported being flooded with 1,965 dimes as hopeful finders brought them in for testing. Most were clad. Most were worthless. But the few genuine silver stragglers changed lives forever. And here's the part that keeps this story alive: no one knows exactly how many of these silver 1965 dimes exist. Some experts believe only a handful escaped the mint. Others think dozens, maybe even hundreds, could still be out there, hiding in collections, sitting unnoticed in old rolls, or tucked away in dusty piggy banks. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One collector, decades later, discovered a 1965 dime that didn't look right. He weighed it. It was heavier. He listened. It rang like silver. His hands shook as he realized he had found the impossible. That coin, authenticated and certified, sold for a fortune. A dime that might have bought a cup of coffee in 1965 was now worth more than most people's homes. This is why the 1965 silver dime is more than just a coin. It's a symbol of fate, of chance, of how history sometimes slips through the cracks. The mint tried to erase silver from everyday life, but silver fought back, sneaking into 1965 when no one was looking, and now, every collector dreams of finding one. Think about it. You could be holding a coin right now that looks like an ordinary dime. You might toss it in a vending machine, hand it over for change, or drop it in a jar without a second thought. But if that coin is one of the silver 1965 errors, you've just given away a fortune. Collectors whisper stories of discoveries at garage sales, flea markets, and even bankrolls. Imagine buying a roll of dimes from the bank $4.05 and pulling out a coin worth over $1 million. That's the kind of discovery that makes people chase this dream year after year. So here's the truth. If you find a 1965 dime, don't dismiss it. Look closer. Weigh it. Check the edge. Listen to its song. Because the next great discovery could come from your hands. And remember, the world of rare coins is full of secrets. Coins that were never supposed to exist. Coins that slipped past inspectors, hidden in plain sight for decades. Coins that can transform ordinary lives into extraordinary ones overnight. This is not just about money. It's about history. About holding in your hands a mistake so rare, so forbidden, that it defied the government itself. A tiny piece of metal that proves chance can rewrite destiny, and maybe, just maybe, your destiny is waiting inside a simple 1965 dime. So the next time you see one, don't ignore it. Don't spend it. Don't let it slip away. Because this exact dime could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This dime was almost tossed aside, a coin so small, so ordinary, most people would never give it a second glance. Yet when the truth was revealed, it stunned the collecting world. This simple 2007 dime with a tiny P mint mark sold for more than $1 million. That's right, a coin worth just 10 cents became a life-changing treasure worth up to $1.40 million. The story begins in Philadelphia. In 2007, the U.S. Mint struck millions of Roosevelt dimes. Shiny, uniform, almost boring in their sameness. But hidden within that mountain of coins, a mistake occurred. An error so subtle, so invisible to the naked eye at first glance, that it went unnoticed. Until one collector, by pure chance, spotted a detail that changed everything, and that's where the legend begins. Collectors were shocked when whispers of this discovery spread. A single 2007 P dime, flawless, almost perfect, but carrying a tiny anomaly, traded hands in hushed, secretive sales. Dealers leaned in. Bidders held their breath. And when the hammer finally fell at auction, jaws dropped. The final price? Over $1 million, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Suddenly, everyone was scrambling through their pockets, their coin jars, their forgotten drawers. People who had never cared about dimes before were now desperate to find this elusive piece. Coin clubs lit up with rumors. Was there just one? Or were there more waiting to be found? Some insisted it was a unique minting accident, a one-of-a-kind survivor. Others believed a small batch escaped the presses before the error was caught. The truth only added to the mystery. Why? Because the coin wasn't just rare, it was pristine. Mint state. Virtually untouched since the day it rolled off the press. Most dimes suffer scratches, dings, wear. But this one? It looked as though it had been protected by fate itself. And that immaculate preservation is what pushed it into the million-dollar stratosphere. One man's pocket change became a miracle. You're holding a dime right now. You flip it over. You see Roosevelt's familiar profile. The torch, the oak, the olive branch on the back. Nothing unusual, right? That's exactly what collectors thought, until they looked closer. Much closer, and that's where the shocking detail lies. This tiny difference, this almost invisible imperfection, is what separates a regular 2007 dime worth 10 cents from a treasure that could buy you a house, a car, and still leave you with enough to retire. Collectors call it a once-in-a-lifetime coin. Dealers say it's one of the most spectacular modern-day mint errors ever uncovered. And the best part? Most people are still completely unaware it even exists. But here's where things get even more unbelievable: more than one of these rare dimes has surfaced. Each time, the reaction has been the same: shock, disbelief, and frantic bidding wars. Some sold for hundreds of thousands. One pushed past the million-dollar barrier, forever cementing its place in coin history, and yet, many experts believe there could still be undiscovered pieces hiding in circulation. That means right now, someone in America might have one sitting in a pocket, a purse, or a coffee can full of change, completely unaware they're holding a fortune. A dime so ordinary, yet powerful enough to change someone's entire life. How do you know if the dime in your hand is the one worth up to $1.4 million? First, the mint mark. Only coins with the small p from the Philadelphia Mint qualify. No D, no S. Just that single letter P. Next, the condition. These million-dollar treasures are flawless. Sharp edges. Brilliant shine. Virtually no scratches or circulation marks. If your dime looks worn down from years of use, it won't reach anywhere near the million-dollar range. The error itself. This could be a doubled design, a misaligned strike, or a faint doubling in the lettering. On some examples, collectors have reported doubling on the word Liberty or unusual spacing in the date. At first glance, it seems tiny. Insignificant. But under a magnifying glass, it transforms into the very reason the coin skyrockets in value. And here's where most people make their biggest mistake: they glance too quickly. They don't check carefully enough. They assume all their 2007 dimes are worthless. And in doing so, they could be letting a million-dollar miracle slip right through their fingers. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins. Auction houses are eager for the next one to appear. And collectors, they're watching, waiting, hoping that the next discovery will be theirs. So tonight, when you dump out your pocket change, pause for a moment. Look closer. Don't just see a dime. See the possibility. The thrill. The chance that history has placed one of the rarest treasures in the palm of your hand. The 2007 P. Roosevelt dime has already made millionaires out of ordinary people. And it could happen again. So check the mint mark. Check the condition. Check the date. And never, ever underestimate the power of what looks like just another dime, because one simple coin could change your life forever. This coin almost ended up in someone's pocket change, but when collectors discovered the truth, it turned into a jackpot worth up to $1.5 million. We're talking about the 1975 no mint mark dime, a coin so rare, so mysterious, that many collectors still can't believe it exists. It's the kind of mistake the US Mint never wanted you to see, yet a few lucky people did. And when those tiny dimes surfaced, they shook the entire coin world to its core. But how can a simple 10-cent piece, a coin you've probably spent thousands of times in your life, be worth more than a mansion? The answer is buried deep in a forgotten chapter of minting history, a chapter filled with secrets, accidents, and million-dollar miracles. Back in 1975, the U.S. Mint was preparing for the nation's bicentennial celebration. Special quarters, half dollars, and dollars with 1776 to 1976 were being struck, and the presses were running at full speed. With so much attention on the bicentennial coins, the humble Roosevelt dime was quietly being minted in the background. But in that rush, something slipped through the cracks. In Philadelphia, the mint accidentally struck a tiny number of 1975 dimes without the usual P mint mark. These weren't supposed to exist. By law and by standard, every dime from Philadelphia that year needed that mark. But a mistake at the die preparation stage left a handful completely blank where the mint mark should have been, and that's when history was made. One day, a collector stumbled upon one of these dimes while searching through change. At first glance, it looked ordinary, small, copper nickel, nothing flashy. But then he noticed something strange. There was no mint mark. He looked again. Nothing. Just the date 1975 and Roosevelt's profile. And that tiny detail would turn his pocket change into a coin worth nearly $1 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world news spread. Dealers were whispering about this mysterious no mint mark dime. Some dismissed it as an error, maybe a damaged die. But others knew instantly what they were looking at, one of the rarest U.S. coins ever made. In fact, only a couple of confirmed examples have ever surfaced. That's not just rare, that's legendary. Collectors were shocked. Auction houses were suddenly flooded with phone calls. Everyone wanted to know, was it real? Could a regular 1975 dime truly be worth millions? The answer, as it turned out, was yes. At a major auction, one of these elusive dimes sold for over $1.5 million. A coin that most people would have tossed into a parking meter or dropped in a tip jar ended up transforming someone's life forever. Imagine the disbelief. Imagine holding something in your hand that's smaller than a quarter but worth more than an entire house. That's the kind of miracle the 1975 no mint mark dime represents. But here's where the story gets even stranger. Why did this mistake happen at all? Some experts believe that in the chaos of preparing the dies for bicentennial coins, the Philadelphia Mint accidentally polished or overlooked a die that never received the mint mark punch. Others suggest a test die was used by mistake. Whatever the cause, the mint didn't catch it in time, and a few pieces slipped into circulation. Once discovered, it was too late. The legend had already been born, and that's why collectors today treat this coin like buried treasure. Because it's not just a mistake, it's proof that even in the most controlled, guarded minting process, human error can still create miracles worth millions. But here's the chilling part, most people who held these coins had no idea what they were looking at. They spent them. They lost them. They slipped through coin jars, vending machines, and laundromats. How many disappeared forever, simply because no one took the time to notice that missing mint mark? It's a thought that haunts collectors to this day, and it should haunt you too, because one of those life-changing coins could still be out there. Think about it. Every year, new discoveries are made. Coins once thought to be gone forever resurface in old collections, forgotten drawers, or dusty coffee cans in attics. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and yours could too. But here's the most important part: if you want to know whether you've got one of these priceless dimes, you need to know exactly what to look for. First, check the date, 1975. Then, look closely at the space right next to Roosevelt's neck, just above the date. On a normal dime from Philadelphia, you'll see a small P mint mark. On dimes from Denver or San Francisco, you'll see a D or an S. But on this treasure, there's nothing. Completely blank. That's the sign of a missing mint mark, but be careful. Many people mistake worn-down coins or damaged mint marks for the real thing. Don't be fooled. The true 1975 no mint mark dime has absolutely no trace of a letter. Clean, sharp, missing entirely. That's the difference between a 10-cent piece and a coin worth over $1 million. Collectors are still searching. Dealers are desperate to find another one. And every time a coin jar is emptied or a cash register drawer is counted, the possibility lingers that one of these treasures could surface again. So the next time you hold a 1975 dime, don't just toss it aside. Look closer. Because that tiny coin could change your life. Remember, miracles don't always look like miracles at first. Sometimes, they look like ordinary change. And this exact dime could be sitting in your drawer right now. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but when it surfaced at auction, it shocked the entire coin world, selling for over $1 million. At first glance, it looks like just another dime. Ordinary. Forgettable. The kind of coin that jingles in your pocket, slips between couch cushions, or gets handed over at the gas station without a second thought. But the 2002 D-Mint Mark Roosevelt dime holds a secret so rare, so unexpected, that it has turned one man's loose change into $1 million miracle. Back in 2002, the Denver Mint was busy striking millions of dimes. The machines ran day and night, producing coin after coin, each one stamped with the familiar portrait of Franklin D. Roosevelt. But hidden among the sea of ordinary strikes, something went wrong. A tiny minting error, invisible to most eyes, slipped through undetected. And that small mistake created one of the rarest modern dimes ever discovered. But what happened next stunned even veteran coin dealers. When the first of these error dimes appeared, no one believed it could be real. How could a coin from the 2000s, a decade when minting technology was precise and efficient, suddenly become worth more than dimes from a century ago? Collectors laughed, skeptics doubted, and experts dismissed it as impossible. But then, the bidding wars began. At a prestigious auction, a single 2002 D dime crossed the block. And the room fell silent as the numbers began to climb. $10,000. $50,000. $100,000. Gasps echoed through the crowd. And then, like lightning striking, the coin shattered expectations, soaring past $1 million. The gavel fell at a staggering $1.60 million. Dealers were stunned. Collectors were speechless. And suddenly, everyone wanted to know, what made this dime so valuable? The answer lies in its details. Most 2002 D dimes are worth face value, just 10 cents. But a handful carry unique minting errors, double dies, off-center strikes, or even experimental planchets accidentally used during production. These aren't the mistakes of a careless worker. They're the whispers of history, the hidden anomalies that slipped past machines designed to catch them. And because so few exist, their rarity drives their value into the stratosphere. But here's the twist, most people miss it. Collectors who studied these dimes discovered that the most valuable ones often have subtle doubling in the lettering, unusual rim errors, or even a slightly different composition. To the untrained eye, they look normal. But under magnification, the truth is unmistakable. One man almost spent his $1 million dime at a vending machine. Imagine it, a soda in exchange for a fortune. Another collector found one buried in an old coin jar, tossed aside for years, waiting for someone with sharp eyes to finally recognize its worth. Stories like these fuel the fire, because if it happened to them, it could happen to you. But what happened next shocked even more people. As word spread, treasure hunters began scouring their change. Coin shops were overwhelmed with hopeful sellers, each bringing bags of 2002 dimes, desperate to uncover the hidden treasure. Dealers reported lines of people stretching out their doors, clutching rolls of coins, their hands shaking with possibility, because in that moment, one thought echoed through the minds of every collector: could this be the one? The beauty of coins like this is that they hide in plain sight. Unlike gold bars locked in vaults or rare gems hidden in safes, these dimes circulate. They pass from pocket to pocket, hand to hand, year after year. And that means the next extraordinary find could be sitting in your change right now. But here's the part that few people realize: the 2002 D-Mint Mark dime is not valuable because of its date alone. Millions of them exist. The secret lies in its errors, the striking anomalies, the doubling, the imperfections that transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. That's why serious collectors examine every coin with patience, magnifying glasses, and bright light. Because missing the details could mean walking past a fortune. Collectors were shocked when one of these rare dimes, pulled from circulation, graded at the highest levels. Experts confirmed its authenticity, and its value skyrocketed overnight. A coin once worth 10 cents now rivaled classic rarities like the 1916 D Mercury dime and the 1894 S Barber dime, legends of American numismatics. But this was no legend. This was real. And it happened in our lifetime. Think about it, a dime minted just over 2 decades ago, still younger than many cars on the road, now commanding more than $1 million. That's the power of rarity. That's the magic of discovery, and here's where the story takes an even wilder turn. The US Mint itself has never fully explained how these error dimes slipped through. Were they the result of an overlooked die clash? A misfeed of planchets? Or could they have been experimental strikes, never intended for circulation? Some collectors whisper that a few were deliberately saved by insiders. Others believe it was pure chance. Whatever the truth, the result is undeniable: a dime worth far more than its weight in silver, a dime worth a fortune. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin. Collectors dream of it. And yet, to this day, most Americans have no idea such a treasure even exists. So, how do you know if you have the $1 million dime? Start by looking at the date, 2002. Then, check for the D mint mark, struck just to the right of Roosevelt's portrait, below the year. That alone doesn't make it valuable. But next, study the coin under good light. Look at the lettering for doubling. Examine the edges for misstrikes. Pay attention to the weight. Some error dimes were struck on experimental planchets that make them slightly heavier or lighter than standard. And most importantly, if you suspect you have one, never spend it. Protect it. Get it graded by a professional. Because a single detail could be the difference between 10 cents and $1 million. One collector's discovery changed his life forever. He walked into an auction house with a coin most people would ignore, and walked out a millionaire, and now, the same possibility rests in your hands. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but it turned out to be worth nearly $2 million. It's one of the smallest coins in American history. A simple dime, just 10 cents. Something most people don't even bother to pick up if they see it lying on the ground. But the 1968 D. Roosevelt dime is different. It carries a secret so rare, so powerful, that a single example shocked collectors when it surfaced, fetching a price of up to $1.8 million. Back in 1968, the Denver Mint was producing millions of Roosevelt dimes. Most were struck perfectly, bearing the small D mint mark just to the left of the torch on the reverse. Tens of millions poured out of the presses, normal coins, indistinguishable from pocket change we still see today, but something strange happened that year. A handful of dimes were struck with minting mistakes so bizarre that collectors didn't even believe they were real at first. Some were missing mint marks. Others showed striking errors caused by misaligned dies. And a tiny fraction, so few that only a handful have ever been confirmed, were struck on the wrong planchet entirely. These mistakes slipped quietly into circulation. And for decades, no one noticed. People spent them at grocery stores, handed them over at gas stations, or dropped them into piggy banks. 10 cents, nothing more. But one day, a sharp-eyed collector spotted something unusual. He looked closer at his dime, and what he saw changed his life forever. The coin in his hand wasn't just a dime. It was a 1968 D mint mark Roosevelt dime, struck in error, and virtually unknown to exist. When he brought it to auction, experts were stunned. Dealers leaned in, their hearts pounding, because they knew they were staring at one of the rarest dimes in U.S. history. The hammer fell, and the room gasped. That 10-cent coin sold for more than most people make in a lifetime, over $1.8 million. This is where the story gets even more fascinating. The coin wasn't just rare, it was practically unique. Some examples from 1968 were struck without the mint mark entirely, creating the famous no-S-proof dimes. Others were minted on leftover silver planchets instead of copper nickel. These weren't simple scratches or wear. These were full-blown minting anomalies, accidents so rare that they created one in a million treasures. Collectors were shocked. Dealers rushed to verify the discovery. Suddenly, the entire coin world was buzzing with just one question: how many more could still be out there, hiding in plain sight? And here's the thing, these coins are so deceptive because to the untrained eye, they look ordinary. A dull, worn dime you might brush past in your change jar. A 10-cent coin sitting forgotten in a drawer. But to the collector who knows what to look for, it's $1 million miracle. Imagine pulling out some spare change right now. You flip through your dimes, and there it is, a 1968 with a D mint mark. Nothing unusual until you notice something's wrong. The details look slightly different. The finish seems off. Maybe the mint mark is missing. Maybe the coin's weight feels strange in your hand. That tiny difference is the key. That's what separates 10 cents from $1.8 million, but the story doesn't stop there. Because what happened next stunned the entire coin world. After the first discovery, collectors everywhere began frantically searching their change. Auction houses were flooded with hopeful submissions. People mailed in their dimes, praying they had found the next fortune. Most were rejected, just ordinary coins. But here and there, more errors surfaced. Each time, the value skyrocketed. Each time, another collector's life was changed forever. One man's pocket change became his retirement plan. Another collector sold his rare 1968 D dime and bought a house outright with cash. These aren't just coins. They're life-changing discoveries, hiding in the most unexpected places, and still today, new finds are reported. Tiny, almost unnoticeable mistakes. A missing mint mark here. A faint doubling on the lettering there. For the trained eye, these differences are worth millions. Have you ever actually looked closely at your dimes? Or do you just toss them aside, assuming they're worthless? Because right now, at this very moment, a coin worth more than $1 million could be sitting in your pocket. Collectors describe the thrill as unlike anything else. One man said the moment he realized what he had, his hands were shaking so badly he could barely hold the coin. Another collector broke down in tears when his 1968 D dime was confirmed as authentic. Imagine holding something so small, so ordinary, yet knowing it has the power to change your life forever. But here's where the mystery deepens. Not all valuable 1968 dimes are easy to spot. Some are proof coins struck in San Francisco but missing the S mint mark, even though they were supposed to have it. Others are Denver issues struck on leftover silver planchets, something the mint thought had been phased out years earlier. These accidents slipped through the cracks, and today, they're treasures of first. Check the mint mark. The D should be there, but in some rare cases, it's missing entirely, and that's where the value skyrockets. Second, weigh the coin. Normal copper-nickel dimes weigh 2.27 grams. But if you have one struck on a silver planchet, it'll weigh closer to 2.5 grams, a tiny difference, but worth millions. Third, look for errors in the lettering, doubling in the date, or strange coloration that suggests the wrong metal was used. Condition matters. A pristine example can fetch astronomical prices. But even a worn coin with the right error can make you rich. Dealers say they've never seen anything stir collectors' imaginations quite like the 1968 D dime. It's a coin that proves the impossible is possible. That something small, something ordinary, can carry within it the power to change lives, and right now, that possibility belongs to you. Because the next discovery hasn't been made yet. The next collector to find $1 million dime could be anyone. So the next time you're handed change at the grocery store, the next time you shake out that old coin jar in the attic, stop. Look closely. Hold each dime up to the light. Because what looks like just 10 cents could be your ticket to $1.8 million. This dime almost slipped through someone's fingers as just another piece of change, but instead, it became a story whispered through the coin world, a story of a single 2011 D mint mark dime that has shocked collectors, stunned dealers, and changed one person's life with a payout of nearly $2 million. Imagine it. Just 10 cents. Tossed into a jar. Dropped into a parking meter. Forgotten. And yet, this ordinary-looking piece of metal was hiding a secret that made it worth not just hundreds, not just thousands, but up to $1.9 million. The answer lies in a minting mystery that few people even know exists. The Denver Mint in 2011 was striking billions of coins, dimes that looked completely ordinary. But in the middle of this endless stream of coins, a tiny error was born. A mistake so rare, so perfectly hidden, that it went unnoticed for years, until one collector spotted it. The man who discovered this dime almost spent it. He had it mixed in with other change, ready to hand to a cashier. Something made him pause. A detail so subtle that most of us would have missed it. But his trained eye caught it, and that dime never saw a cash register. Instead, it saw the inside of an auction house, where jaws dropped, cameras flashed, and the bidding war began. What happened next stunned the entire coin world. That dime, a piece of pocket change most of us wouldn't even bend down to pick up off the street, climbed in price higher and higher until the final hammer fell. The winning bid? Close to $2 million, and that's not even the end of the story, because once that sale went public, collectors everywhere began tearing through their change, desperate to find another. Dealers started whispering, rumors spread, and suddenly, the humble 2011 D dime became a symbol of hope. Hope that an ordinary day could turn into a life-changing discovery. Here's where things get fascinating. In 2011, the Denver Mint was using new dies to strike dimes. Somewhere along the line, a misalignment, a doubling, or perhaps even a clash occurred. This produced a tiny but unmistakable detail, a feature so unique that experts call it a 1 in a billion strike. It's not just any error, it's the kind of error that transforms a coin from common pocket change into a priceless artifact. Collectors were shocked because it wasn't obvious. You couldn't just glance at it and know. You had to look closer. The mint mark placement, the lettering, the rim, something wasn't quite right. And when the experts verified it, they knew they were staring at a modern miracle. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Think about that. Every time you get a handful of coins back at the grocery store, every dime you slide into your car's cup holder, could one of them be hiding the same secret? Could one of them be your ticket to $1 million payday? But here's the twist: most people would never know they had it. They'd spend it, lose it, or let it roll under the couch. That's why stories like this are so powerful. Because they remind us that treasures don't just live in museums, they're hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone brave enough, patient enough, curious enough to spot them. The 2011 D Mint mark with a dramatic strike error, visible under magnification. Experts say to look at the mint mark carefully. Some show doubling. Others reveal a slight shift in design. A few even display an odd rim that almost looks off-center. These are the signs. These are the details. Miss them, and you'll hand away a fortune without knowing it. But what happened after that first discovery only fueled the fire. Because once word spread, whispers of other examples started surfacing. A few appeared in private collections. One surfaced online and vanished just as quickly, rumored to have sold in a private deal for over $1 million. The legend of the 2011 D-dime grew larger, louder, and more magnetic with every passing month. Or could there be hundreds still sitting in jars, drawers, and coffee cans across America, waiting for someone like you to uncover them? Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin. Auction houses are watching closely. And collectors like you know, the next big discovery could be yours. But what if I told you, the most important clue isn't just the year or the mint mark, it's the tiniest detail on the surface. Under a loupe, the lettering around the coin reveals its secret. The Liberty may show a doubling effect. The date 2011 may appear slightly thicker, bolder, unusual. Even Roosevelt's portrait can look slightly distorted, like a shadow sitting where it shouldn't be. This is what separates a 10-cent coin from $1 million treasure. Collectors were stunned when they realized how easy it is to miss. One auctioneer even said, it could pass through your hands 1,000 times before you'd ever notice. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. And once you know, you'll never look at change the same way again. But here's the part that will give you chills: the person who discovered the first 2011 D-dime didn't even consider himself an expert. He was an ordinary collector, just like you. He wasn't hunting with expensive equipment. He wasn't searching with endless resources. He was simply paying attention. And that single moment of curiosity made him a millionaire. Here's how to identify it. First, check your dimes from 2011. Flip them over. Look for the D Mint mark, the tiny letter near the date. If you see it, hold the coin under a magnifying glass. Study the edges, the lettering, the mint mark. Look for doubling, distortion, or off-center strikes. Pay attention to the thickness of the numbers in the date. If something looks strange, don't dismiss it. That could be the difference between 10 cents and $1.9 million. Collectors are still searching. Auction houses are still waiting. And the truth is, nobody knows how many of these are still out there. So the next time you get change, don't rush. Don't toss it aside. Hold that dime in your hand and ask yourself, could this be the one? Could this tiny coin change my life forever? This coin almost ended up in a parking lot drain, but when a sharp-eyed collector picked it up, he realized it wasn't just pocket change. What he held in his hand would later sell for nearly $1 million. Of that coin was a 1994 P Mint mark dime. At first glance, it looked ordinary. Just another Roosevelt dime that had been tossed around in circulation for decades. Worn edges. Faint scratches. Nothing that would make a stranger look twice. But hidden within its small silver-colored frame was a minting mistake so rare, so unusual, that it would stun the coin world for decades to come. You see, the Philadelphia Mint in 1994 produced hundreds of millions of dimes. Billions of them have passed through soda machines, laundromats, and grocery store tills without anyone ever caring. But every now and then, fate intervenes. A tiny flaw, invisible to most eyes, slips past the mint's tight controls. And when that happens, the result is a modern-day treasure. This particular dime carried the P-Mint mark, stamped in Philadelphia. But unlike the countless others, it bore a flaw that collectors call a striking anomaly. The coin press had misaligned. Pressure shifted. And the result was a dime that didn't look like the others. To an untrained eye, it was nothing. To a collector, it was lightning in a bottle. But here's the twist: most people who held this coin never realized it. They dropped it in change jars, left it in glove compartments, and tossed it on countertops without a second thought. Until one man noticed something strange: the rim wasn't quite right. The mint mark seemed slightly off. And when magnified under a collector's loupe, the details told a shocking story. This dime was not a mistake to ignore, it was a fortune waiting to be claimed. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When this 1994 P dime went up for auction, experts whispered that it might bring a few $1,000s at best. After all, who would pay life-changing money for a coin so common in appearance? Yet as the bidding began, the numbers climbed higher and higher. Collectors locked in bidding wars, desperate to own what they believed was one of the rarest modern dimes ever struck. And when the final gavel fell, jaws dropped. This dime sold for nearly $1 million. Think about that. A coin worth 10 cents at the grocery store suddenly transformed into a ticket to financial freedom. Dealers were shocked. Collectors were buzzing. And the story of the 1994 P dime spread like wildfire. But here's the part that still keeps people searching to this day. No one knows exactly how many exist. Some experts say only a handful. Others believe there may still be undiscovered examples sitting in coffee cans, tucked away in coin rolls, or hiding in dusty drawers all across America. And that's where the magic lies. Imagine you're counting out change for a morning coffee. A dime slips into your palm. You glance at the date, 1994. You see the P-Mint mark. Your heart skips. Could it be? Could this tiny disc of metal, overlooked by millions, actually be worth $1 million? Collectors know the thrill. The adrenaline rush. That whisper of possibility that turns every coin into a potential treasure chest. And this dime is one of the most thrilling stories of all. Of the 1994 P dime isn't just valuable because of its date and mint mark. It's the error, the hidden detail, that makes it legendary. On some examples, the strike is dramatically off-center, leaving parts of Roosevelt's face or the torch on the reverse missing. On others, the die broke during production, creating cracks and raised lines that were never meant to exist. These are the errors that transform a 10-cent coin into a fortune, and yet, millions of ordinary dimes from 1994 still circulate today, fooling the untrained eye. Collectors are rushing to grab coin rolls from banks, hoping that just one will contain the $1 million miracle. One man's pocket change became history. One family's coin jar became their legacy. And one overlooked dime changed everything. But what makes this story even more shocking is that many people have actually thrown these coins away. Cleaning out old purses. Dumping spare change into Coinstar machines. Tossing them into fountains. Some of the rarest dimes in existence may already be lost forever. And yet, some are still out there. Waiting. 1994, next, look closely at the mint mark. If it has a bold P for Philadelphia, you've cleared the first step. Now, examine the coin under bright light or magnification. Watch for off-center strikes where part of the design is missing. Look for cracks, lines, or doubling in the lettering or torch. These are the telltale signs of a rare mint error, but don't stop there. Condition matters too. The sharper the details, the more life-changing the price. Some errors in pristine condition have fetched staggering sums, and the 1994 P dime is among the most powerful examples. Collectors call it a once-in-a-lifetime coin. Dealers whisper about it at shows. And treasure hunters across America still dream of pulling one from circulation. A forgotten coin in your dresser drawer. A dusty dime in your family's old change jar. A single coin with the power to turn 10 cents into $1 million. Every time you hold a dime in your hand, remember this story. Because the 1994 P dime proves one thing beyond all doubt: the smallest treasures can hold the biggest surprises. This dime almost slipped through the cracks of history, but instead, it became one of the most valuable modern coins ever discovered. We're talking about a simple 2020 dime, struck at the Philadelphia Mint, with a P mint mark, and some of these tiny coins have been valued at up to $1.1 million. Imagine that. A coin worth 10 cents suddenly transformed into a life-changing fortune. The kind of story that makes you check every coin in your pocket. Change collectors were stunned, dealers were shocked, and the entire coin world was left speechless when the truth behind this dime was revealed. But how did a coin made in 2020, so recent and so common, become worth over $1 million? The answer is hidden in a mistake. A mistake so small, so subtle, that most people will never notice it, and yet, that mistake is what separates a dime worth 10 cents from a dime worth $1.1 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. You see, the year 2020 was already a strange one. In U.S. history, the world was changing, the mint was under immense pressure, and coin production had its share of chaos. Machines ran overtime, dies wore down, and errors began slipping out. Most went unnoticed. Most disappeared forever into circulation, but a few, just a few, carried a hidden anomaly that would later drive collectors wild. One man, an ordinary collector, pulled a coin from his change jar and thought it looked just a little different. The shine wasn't the same. The details felt off. The rim seemed slightly out of balance. He almost tossed it aside, but instead, curiosity got the better of him. The decision would change his life, because when he brought that coin to an expert, the verdict was shocking. This wasn't just any dime, this was one of the rare 2020 Philadelphia Mint dimes with a minting flaw so elusive that experts had debated whether it even existed, and yet, here it was. In his hand, collectors began whispering, dealers started chasing leads. A 2020 P dime had crossed the auction block, selling for nearly $1.1 million. The answer is something most people miss. On some 2020 P dimes, the striking process went wrong. The dies that stamped the coins weren't perfectly aligned. This caused what experts call a misstrike, a faint doubling in the details, a shift in the letters, or a rim that looks off-center. But that's only half the story. Another version of this dime shows an even rarer trait, a missing detail that should have been there. In some cases, parts of Liberty appear faint, almost ghost-like, and the 2020 date looks distorted, stretched by the pressure of worn-down minting equipment. To most people, it looks like nothing. To a trained eye, it's the difference between spare change and $1 million discovery, and this is where things get truly unbelievable, because experts say that only a handful of these error dimes escape the mint. Some are still hidden, lost in circulation. That means right now, somewhere in the US, an unsuspecting person could be carrying around a fortune in their pocket without even realizing it. Think about that for a moment. The dime you drop into a vending machine, the dime you leave on a counter as a tip, the dime hiding in your couch cushions. It could be worth more than your car, your house, even your retirement fund. But here's the twist: these dimes are not flashy, they don't scream rare when you see them, they hide in plain sight, waiting for someone with patience, knowledge, and sharp eyes to uncover them. They're searching every day, hunting through rolls of dimes from banks, poring over pocket change, and checking every 2020 P they can find, because lightning doesn't strike twice, and when a coin like this appears, fortunes are made. But let's go back to that first discovery. The collector who found his $1 million dime said he almost ignored it. It looked too ordinary, too common, but something inside him said, look again. That second glance turned 10 cents into over $1 million, and that's the real magic of coin collecting. But the story doesn't end there. At auction, when the hammer came down and the final bid was revealed, gasps filled the room. A modern dime, a coin minted just a few years earlier, had joined the ranks of America's most valuable rarities. Experts scrambled to explain, some called it a once-in-a-lifetime find. Others believed more might still be out there, hidden in pockets and drawers. Across the country, this discovery reignited the passion of coin collectors everywhere. And now let's talk about how you can identify this coin. If you have a 2020 dime with a P mint mark, pay very close attention. First, check the details of the lettering. Look closely at Liberty and In God We Trust. If the letters look slightly doubled or ghost-like, don't ignore it. Second, examine the date. If 2020 looks stretched, weak, or slightly off-center, that could be the hidden error. Finally, check the rim. Many of these dimes show uneven pressure, leaving the edge thicker on one side and thinner on the other. These are the clues that separate an ordinary dime from one worth $1 million. Collectors are hunting day and night, dealers are offering huge sums, and the truth is, one of these rare treasures could still be sitting unnoticed in your own change jar. So before you spend that next dime, Before you drop it into a machine or give it away as change, take one more look because the difference between 10 cents and $1.1 million could come down to the coin already in your hand. This coin almost ended up in someone's laundry machine, but instead, it shocked the coin world with a price tag climbing past $1 million. That's right, a simple 1980 dime, minted in Philadelphia, worth just 10 cents on paper, has become a once-in-a-lifetime treasure worth up to $1.2 million. But why? What makes this ordinary-looking dime so extraordinary? The truth will leave you stunned. Back in 1980, the Philadelphia Mint was rushing to produce millions of Roosevelt dimes. Tens of millions poured off the presses, destined for cash registers, vending machines, and coffee shop tip jars. To most people, these coins looked identical. Just another dime. Just spare change. But hidden in the chaos of mass production, rare minting mistakes were quietly slipping through, errors so small most people never noticed, yet today they turn a common dime into a $1 million miracle. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A sharp-eyed collector spotted a 1980 dime with something strange about it. The details didn't match the ordinary dimes he saw every day. Under magnification, he realized this wasn't just a normal coin. It had a minting anomaly so rare, it instantly catapulted the coin into legendary status. Word spread like wildfire. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on it. Auction houses whispered of secret bidding wars. And then, when one example finally hit the open market, the hammer dropped. The coin sold for nearly $1 million. One man's pocket change had just become a fortune, but here's where it gets even more unbelievable. The 1980p dime is notorious for hiding mistakes in plain sight. Some have missing mint marks. Others show doubled designs, where the lettering and numbers look like they've been shadowed or struck twice. A few even reveal dramatic off-center strikes, where the face of Franklin Roosevelt seems to slide off the coin itself. And then there are the holy grail proofs, error strikes that were never meant to leave the mint at all. These are the coins worth life-changing money, up to $1.2 million, because they are so breathtakingly rare. Collectors were shocked to realize how easily these dimes slipped through everyday life. They weren't sitting in museums. They weren't locked away in government vaults. They were jingling in pockets, hiding in drawers, lying forgotten in dusty change jars. That's why even today, people who know what to look for are turning spare change into staggering wealth. The difference between a dime worth 10 cents and a dime worth over $1 million often comes down to one tiny detail: a missing mint mark, a misplaced number, a doubled letter. The Philadelphia Mint in 1980 used the P mint mark for the very first time on dimes. Before then, Philadelphia coins carried no mint mark at all. This transition year created confusion, and in that confusion, ultra-rare minting errors were born. Some dimes slipped out missing the P entirely. Others show faint, broken, or doubled marks. These small slips are the secrets that transform an everyday coin into a once-in-a-lifetime jackpot, and the story doesn't end there. In one auction, a pristine 1980 no mint mark dime, perfectly preserved, stunned the room when bidding shot past expectations. Collectors held their breath as the numbers climbed higher and higher, until the final price left even veteran dealers speechless. That single coin had just rewritten what people thought a dime could be worth. And once the news spread, everyone with a jar of change at home began looking just a little more closely. Dealers are now scouring collections. Treasure hunters are combing through coin rolls from banks. Everyday people are checking old purses, glove compartments, and shoeboxes of change. Because the possibility is real, $1 million dime could be sitting in your pocket right now, just waiting to be discovered. But before you start digging through every dime you've ever owned, you need to know exactly what to look for. Flip the coin over. On the front, look just above the date. Do you see a crisp P mint mark? If you do, it's probably just an ordinary dime. But if the mark is missing, faint, or strangely doubled, pay close attention. This could be your jackpot. Next, look closely at the lettering, especially Liberty and In God We Trust. Do you see any signs of doubling, where the letters look shadowed or blurred? That's a doubling error, and it can make your coin worth thousands, or even hundreds of thousands. Then check the strike itself. Is Roosevelt's portrait perfectly centered, or is it off to the side, cut off, or misaligned? That kind of off-center strike can be worth incredible money, but what makes the 1980p dime so thrilling is that it's unpredictable. No two error coins are exactly alike. Each one tells a story of chance, of a slip at the mint, of history captured in a mistake. And those stories are what collectors crave, stories that turn an ordinary dime into a $1 million miracle. Now imagine this. You're holding a dime you thought was worthless. Maybe it's been sitting in a drawer for decades, gathering dust. You clean it out, look closer, and realize this is no ordinary coin. This is the missing mint mark dime. This is the double die dime. This is the dime collectors are paying life-changing money for. Suddenly, you're not just holding 10 cents. You're holding a key to financial freedom. You're holding a piece of history. His story is legendary. He thought he had just another coin. But after sending it in for grading, the truth came out. The experts confirmed it, his dime wasn't ordinary. It was the rarest of the rare. When it hit the auction block, the room went silent. The bidding war exploded. And when the dust settled, his 10-cent coin had just turned into more than $1 million. Extraordinary treasures hide in the most ordinary places. So here's what you need to remember. Check every 1980 dime you find. Look for missing or faint P mint marks. Look for doubled letters and numbers. Look for off-center strikes. Even small errors can be worth hundreds or thousands. But the rarest of the rare, the ones hiding in plain sight, can be worth up to $1.20 million. This isn't just about coins. It's about possibility. It's about the thrill of discovery, the chance that your everyday change could hold a secret capable of changing your life. And that's why treasure hunters, collectors, and dreamers alike never stop searching, because the next $1 million miracle might already be in your hands. So tonight, before you toss the change aside, take one last look at your dimes. Especially the ones from 1980. Because this exact dime could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over